Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the Senior Minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, a historically humanist congregation, and this is Coffee and Wisdom Summertime Style. I'll be here live today and on Thursday, and then we're going to take a little bit of a dog days of summer rest, and we'll be back in September with more. This week, I'm calling it Castles in the Air. Why is that? Well, because it's one of the famous sayings of Henry David Thoreau, 1817 to 1862. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. And this is one of the reasons I think that people like Thoreau still, is that he does have this dreamer quality and this idealist quality about him. But, you know, why is Thoreau hanging out online with Helen DeGeneres there? Interesting. And here he is as a buff guy, shirtless, there in his little cabin in a contemporary TV production. Wait a minute, that seems to be quite a ways from the little Unitarian pencil maker who died very young. What's going on with Thoreau? And another thing, if you start looking around online, you can build Thoreau's cabin. You can also build the Unabomber's cabin, which was modeled on Thoreau's cabin, or you can be a survivalist on your own and have your very own little bomb shelter under your Thoreau cabin. So indeed, there's this kind of what's up with this kind of libertarian survivalist streak that's going on with Thoreau. You can read the Unabomber's PDF online of his famous manifesto. And indeed, over and over in that manifesto, he does mention what's on the left there. That is the journal of Henry David Thoreau. What's up with that? And yes, the Unabomber Manifesto, Industrial Society and its Future, and On the Duty of Civil Disobedience are often compared with each other. That's probably not something you really want to be compared with, Mr. Thoreau. Fortunately, he is also honored by several people who have become sort of secular saints in the world, Tolstoy and Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. on the better side, the more hopeful and idealist side of human thought. So what did Thoreau give to future generations that has made him so famous? The famous play at this point, The Night Thoreau Spent in Jail. Yes, and here he is in Apple TV's Dickinson, appearing with Emily Dickinson, which of course never happened and couldn't have happened, but you know, the imagination is a wondrous thing. Well, really what he gives to America is a change in thought from the way things had been. The founding fathers, the founding white guys, really thought that self-interest would be the driving force of government when they were setting this up. That is, we're not going to talk about morality. We're not going to talk about citizenship. We're just going to keep offering people self-interest, and they're going to keep buying that, and that's going to keep them true to the government. As a matter of fact, Alexander Hamilton in Federalist Paper number 15 wrote, "Why has government been instituted at all? Because the passion of men will not conform to the dictates of reason and justice without constraint." So we have to have constraint if we're going to have government. And the desire of reward is one of the strongest incentives of human conduct. The best security for the fidelity of mankind is to make their interests coincide with their duty. Self-interest, thought many of the founding fathers, was going to keep the nation together. All we have to do is set it up so that we have some competing interests, so we keep discussing these things, but self-interest will keep driving us forward as citizens. Well, along comes Henry David Thoreau to say that's not really what government is about. There is but little virtue in the action of masses of men. What do you think about democracy, Henry? Well, that's about it. Well, Hamilton's going to say laws are a dead letter without courts to expound and define their true meaning and operation. That makes a lot of sense. Thoreau's going to say, under a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is in prison. But government in which the majority rule in all cases cannot be based on justice, even as far as men understand it. So here we have the individualist saying, actually, I have more morality than the mass of my fellow citizens, and I have every right to exercise that. The state is not armed with superior wit or honesty, but with superior physical strength, he wrote. I was not born to be forced. I will breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest. So throwing down the gauntlet to the masses of government because I have a superior morality because I have thought about it, is saying Thoreau. Yeah, and he does have a lot of followers in that. Leo Tolstoy said government is an association of men who do violence to the rest of us. Well, all right, that again is going to kind of tip us toward this libertarian idea. What's up with this? Mahatma Gandhi is going to say civil disobedience becomes a sacred duty when the state has become lawless or corrupt, and a citizen who barters with such a state shares in its corruption and lawlessness. Now, and yeah, don't be part of the system to change it because it's already immoral. Martin Luther King is going to say an individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law. So, and King is going to change this around a little bit to say that actually civil disobedience in many cases can be true citizenship. But Thoreau was not saying that. He was saying that individuals have morality and government necessarily does not. He went on to say in Civil Disobedience, which is his most famous essay, Nature being his most famous book, Walden Pond and Going Out There, which I'll talk a little more about on Thursday. But he said, a very few as heroes, patriots, martyrs, reformers in the great sense, and men serve the state with their consciences. And here we are going to get a little closer to the Martin Luther King idea that the fact that I have a superior morality as an individual and I practice that, I increase the moral quotient within government, within society at large. Aim above morality, be not simply good, be good for something. And here's an operationalist, constructivist idea philosophically about how we can, by being super moral individuals, change the things that are around us. And indeed, you can see all over the internet, as I've mentioned before in Coffee and Wisdom, Thoreau is everywhere. Disobey, Thoreau's civil disobedience. You can even buy the collector's coin from 1849. Of course, what he was protesting against in 1849 and did indeed spend a night in jail was the paying his taxes to support the Mexican-American War, which he considered to be unjust. And he would, as an abolitionist, continue to say that we must resist government because it was underwriting the idea of slavery and perpetuating that, which was happening on the federal level during his lifetime. And he did die in 1862, very early in the Civil War. So civil disobedience, it is our duty as citizens to live up to our own morality, and probably that will put us into jail. There's a lot of discussion. You can find some great articles about Thoreau. Was he really a libertarian? Was he really a liberal at all? It's back and forth. And his legacy is very much discussed because there are some problematic bits in this, particularly this essay, but it did lead to a strain of civil disobedience that most people, I think, would argue it does have some validity within making our government a better and more just thing. I want to talk some more about Thoreau and what was he really getting at in that little cabin that the Unabomber is going to copy all those years later. What is he thinking about it when he's working with this? And no, he didn't meet visitors at the door with his shirt off, which would have been profoundly obscene in the mid 19th century. But we'll see what he did do in that cabin when I look at Castles in the Air, Part 2. Thanks a lot for listening today. And yes, go online and find some writings by Thoreau, especially Civil Disobedience. It's still a very compelling essay all these years later, and makes a very good argument for the superiority of morality when we think for ourselves. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time.